Alright, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to ESL Open Cup number 117. We're a little bit behind. I was a bit slow getting to this because, unfortunately, I have been very sick for the past week. I'm finally feeling better. You might still hear a bit of stuffiness in my voice, though, so I do apologize if that does make the casting just a little bit less clear in what I'm saying. I'm TitanOnFire, though, and we got a great series here. I am very excited. A player that you would probably expect to be in the finals of an EU Open Cup. It's the one and the only from Team Liquid. His name is Clem. And in the top left-hand corner. Haven't seen him in a while, but participating in EU here. That's a little bit of ping. Does not seem to affect him altogether that much. I don't believe actually from Ting anymore. I don't know if he still is a part of that team. But regardless, it is Neeb. And there's a whole lot that I could talk about here. But the thing that I do want to talk about is the fact that we got just a sneaky little proxy barracks here from Clem, going to be across the map. Neeb will be able to scout this out, and of course he's not going to be too happy with what he's seeing in the main base. Double gas, no barracks in the main, and you're usually thinking, alright, well, obviously my opponent is up to something. And you see Neeb immediately is going to scout for the hidden barracks because that is the most likely option at this level. You're not usually going to see anything like proxy, concussive shell marauders, or anything of that nature. But instead, Clem is just going to be proxy the barracks. Going to have that Reaper on the way. Immediately goes into a bunker, so this should clue Neeb into the fact that, hey, this is most likely just a proxy Reaper. It's not going to be anything too crazy that is going to kill Neeb, but really what it's attempting to do is just slow him down as the factories immediately pop down at home, and Clem is just kind of sitting pretty here. This probe getting very, very low. The first Reaper is going to pop on out. The Zealot has also been produced, so that will be able to at least try and stop the Reaper from focusing down probes. You can force the Micro here out of the Terran as immediately the KD8 charge goes down. He's trying to disrupt this mining. First few probes are going to get focused down here, and Clem already manages to snipe one. Stalker is going to be produced fairly shortly. Reaper does just have to get on out of there. And now you just retreat to the bunker, and you play this this little dance where you're pretty much just trying to see how much damage you can actually get done onto the shields of that Nexus. And I mean, if you can pick off any units, as a second Reaper has been produced, and that's a little bit different than usual. Normally it is just the single Reaper, and that is used to harass, but the second one being added on does just make this a little bit more annoying to deal with. The shield battery coming up, though, does mean that eventually Neeb will be able to push this back. A singular shield battery is enough to heal these Stalkers through the DPS of the Reapers, as one Stalker is knocked just a little bit low. Regardless, back at home, we are just seeing Clem take this into a regular macro game. His command center has been placed down. Neeb did scout that out with his probe that has been in the main base, or had been in the main base of Neeb for a while. It's finally the bunker is going to go down. Hellion is brought over. Unfortunately, is not going to have too much use as the Stalker is trying to chase it down. Get knocked away. And Clem gets out with everything. All together, nothing lost, nothing really gained. Two workers go down for the bunker. The barracks across the map. It's a committal. The resources lost ends up being fairly even, but for Clem, you're actually pretty happy with how this has all turned out, because behind this you have two more barracks being added on. Already you're going to be getting into your Widowmine drops, as you're going to have three of them ready for this medevac. Actually, no, just the two. As the Hellion was produced, Clem doesn't quite have the time to fit in a third Widowmine if he wants to get this moved out right at 4 minutes. And there we go. Medevac going across the map. Gonna try and head straight towards the natural, as we have Stalkers already being positioned by Neeb at each of his bases. Has also produced an Oracle. Start up that Stargate right as the bunker was going down, and is now also going into Phoenix production. So it's going to be able to start to try and deny these drops, as this is a great scout by Neeb. Actually catches the initial medevac with a Stalker. I don't know if he was watching, but should be able to pull back these probes in time. As, oh, Neeb takes a bit of extra damage than he needed to. 4 probes end up going down. The second Widowmine is going to get picked up, but now the Reapers and the Hellion moving on into the mineral line. Going to see how much more damage they can get done. That's already 6 probes in total going down. The Oracle has to be brought back, and that is a pretty massive victory here for Clem. As Neeb is now sitting at 32 workers. Phoenix production is going to continue. Stalkers are now going to move across the map, but there's already a tank at home for the Terran player. Started on Stim. Combat Shields as well is going to be started up very, very shortly. And it just feels like there's not really going to be an opportunity here for Neeb to find any sort of opening across the map. I mean, Clem's play right now has been rock solid. And, I mean, I recently, before the time of casting this replay, got to cast Clem in the King of Battles qualifiers. And his TVP in those games looked pretty darn solid. You can see here, I mean, obviously bringing it to Clem, or bringing the game to Neeb, who is not in an awful position, with all things said and done. Now has Phoenix production, has the Twilight Council and the Forge finishing up, so can start on his charge, +1. I assume armor is what most players will usually go for in this situation. There we go. And it has additional gateways on the way, so it's not like this game is immediately over or anything. It's, again, Neeb with these catches is finding all the medevacs. It didn't stop the damage from coming through with the Widowmine drop. You know, it's still lost 4 probes, but the fact that he stops this Marine drop now is actually so big. That just means that Clem is going to be confined to his base, waiting for these upgrades to finish, waiting for his additional medevacs before he eventually makes that push out. But it's, I mean, 7 more gateways on the way for Neeb. He knows that he has the time for this. A revelation has even popped down on these units, so he knows when the move out time will be. As, oh, bit of a catch. Stasis Ward. Oh, Clem doesn't even want to lose a Marine. You know, he's just that frugal. Because that DPS could win me this game. Because he knows how to micro these units so well. But it's more Zealots on the way. And right now, Neeb should be having his charge in time for this attack. The +1 armor is going to be a little bit closer. And that's the upgrade that you really want to have done, because you're going to have that +1 attack for Clem. As he's pushing across the map now, what are you looking at? Well, it's 20 Marines, a tank, a Viking, and 4 Widowmines. It's not the strongest army. There's not a lot of tech with it, but it is very, very powerful in how much you're able to push with it. So here we go. Charges done with that +1 armor is what you're really waiting for. Neither of these players with their upgrades, and those are some great force fields. Immediately, Clem having to evac his units as the Phoenixes managed to drag away one of the mine shots. They are just going to relegate themselves to cleaning up some of these reinforcements, but now the natural base is open, and we're going to see a stim up there. Still, you have a nice unit spread here, as Widowmine shots are actually split from quite nicely, as now the Phoenixes are diving on into the Marines. They're getting focus fire down, but the Zealots now have free reign to do what they want. That +1 armor helping them absolutely shoot through these Marines. The Widowmine shots are not retargeted, but still Neeb's army is falling. He's at 77 supply. More Warpins are going to come through, but it's just a bio army here for Clem. I don't know if there's enough for Neeb. I mean, the +1 of the bio able to chew through the rest of the Protoss units, and that's GG. Clem taking game 1. Once again, early SCV sent out is going to be building a barracks, I assume, across the map, although I might just go at home and this is an early scout. I assume the plan is here for Clem with this SCV. He's taking a bit of a non-traditional path. Did just avoid all the scouting that could have happened from any probe going across the map, and it could just be an engineering bay. Clem wanting to slow down his opponent potentially, and there we go. And it is something that we've seen Maru do a lot. Other Terran players that realize that they want to try and just get an advantage over their opponent, and if they put down the engineering bay, it ends up pretty much meaning that in the time that it takes for the Protoss to pretty much knock down this engineering bay, you actually have enough time to build your own CC and be completely fine. As Clem, are you gonna? No, don't. Okay, I was gonna say he absolutely could just have built another engineering bay, but it looks like Neeb is gonna go for the suboptimal third here, which is not really what you want to do. With this Nexus being blocked on the low ground, taking the far Nexus is just a kind of an awkward position, because you have a lot of space between your third and that natural that you will take for your third. And it'll just lead to this being going to be a little bit awkward, and we'll see if Clem can actually take advantage of this. We've seen plenty of times where Terran players are forced this natural base in an awkward position. They force the second in an awkward position, and then they go for some sort of early aggression with Hellions, Widowmine drops, just something that they can really kind of attack 2 places at once, and it looks like we're going to see something similar here, as we do have just Marines walking across the map. There was no Reaper in exchange for this faster reactor, so you can get the double Hellions, and Clem is fully looking to take advantage of this. He does not want to give Neeb any space, so you're going to bunker up the natural base. You're going to have Marines in there so that there's going to be no mining happening from it, and then you're also going to have double Hellion moving across the map. At the same time, Clem will be taking his own natural command center, and here we go. This is going to start to be very, very annoying for Neeb to deal with, as he's only built at depths. No stalkers being produced as well. It's just going to make this a little bit harder. And here's the thing. These Hellions can actually go straight into the main. And yeah, they're rallied there. I don't think... Oh, Neeb does see them. But I don't think Neeb actually has anything back at home. This could be absolutely disastrous. 2 Hellions, nothing in the main base. And this... Well, this is about as bad as it gets for the Protoss, and this is exactly how every Terran wants this game to go. Clem not getting the best shots right at the start, but it's going to... Just so much damage is going to happen here, and I don't think that... Neeb can't do anything. Neeb can't do anything. His adepts are... Yeah, GG. Wow, that's game. And yeah, a reverse sweep is not... It's not an easy task. These first 2 games have definitely been very much a case of it just being a little bit awkward for Neeb to deal with what Clem is throwing at him. And the early game has certainly not seemed to be Neeb's forte. And I think that's definitely a stylistic kind of matchup between these 2 players, where obviously Neeb, I mean, became known for really... his macro, where he would just go play the late game, and pretty much that's how he would play great macro games, get into the late game, and just work and win through those timing attacks and late game pressure. And so, you know, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Neeb ends up handling this series from here on out. Like, how do you try and make this work for you against Clem, who really, I think, on all aspects of his TVP is pretty darn good. It's not like Clem's TVT where you might look at it and say, oh, well, you know, it's not up to par with his other matchups. No, his TVP is pretty good. It's going to be the Stargate once again for Neeb, 3 times in a row, and Neeb just didn't quite see the proxy starport, which is going to hurt just a little bit, as Clem is going to be the Hellion drops. 4 Hellions straight into the main base, try and roast up some probes, end this game in sub 5 or sub 6 minutes, and get that early win, and we'll see if that's going to be the case, as Neeb himself is actually looking for a proxy pylon here, and we'll see what tech is going to go down with it. The issue is, these Hellions are very much in that scouting path. It's going to be a gateway, Oracle immediately in production, an additional gateway as well, and so maybe some pressure going to be planned here for Neeb, as the Hellions poking around, not able to really get much done. SCV, long way back, so it doesn't get scouted in this. I mean, this depth will eventually get chased away. Now these Hellions should find their way across the map. And SCV does scout out the proxy gateway, so I mean, Neeb might just have to cancel that as soon as the Hellions come over here. I don't think it's really worthwhile letting it finish, but you do get a scout on those Hellions moving across the map. Has a nice catch there with the Oracle, and Neeb able to actually mitigate really much of the threat there was. You see the medevac now retreating. Really everything turning out fairly decently for the Protoss player. I'd say there was a chance for this to go extremely badly. That was not the case. As Adept's now making their way into the main base. Neeb is going to go for the shade. Yes, he is. Actually splits them up quite nicely. Is looking for the focus fire. I mean, I feel like you should have focused the workers here. The tank is not going to go down until the oracles are focused onto it. And I mean, you lose some adepts, but you get a bit of value, I guess. 5 SCVs do go down. The oracles are alive. It ends up being a worthwhile trade in the end. The tank falling. That is about it. And I believe 1 SCV did die to friendly fire from the tank. That's why you see 5. But only 4 workers lost as Neeb now going to be taking his 3rd base. Again, Twilight Council Forge should be heading into the exact same play that he did in game number 1. But this time we'll just have a little bit more time to do it and be just, a lot more comfortable. Sitting at 47 workers instead of the 36 he was at in game 1 at this point. As Phoenix production has started, you're going to have these oracles, and the Phoenix pretty much just asserting map dominance and trying to keep tabs on the Terran, dive into those mineral lines if there's ever an opportunity, and in general, just wreak havoc across the map. +1 armor, charge, additional gateways, and it's just your standard Protoss transition here for Neeb. His 3rd base is going to be saturated, and honestly, this game feeling a whole lot more comfortable for our Protoss player, and this is absolutely the situation that you love to be in, where you've been able to pretty much mitigate all of the early game damage, and you haven't really had to risk anything. You're sitting pretty right now as Neeb, who is, I think currently in, I would say, even an advantageous position. Oracles continuing to tag up the army, and behind this, it looks like a pretty standard build also coming out from Clem. You're going to have your stim and your combat shields finishing up. The combat shields is actually a bit later than would expect. I'm not sure. I wasn't keeping track of the build exactly if Clem did end up going for 2 racks into the 3rd barracks, because usually this upgrade here should be done at the same time as the stim, but that is not the case with this push out. And that's just only a little bit worrying, but still, you would usually like to see them finishing up together. It just makes this push a whole lot easier, as 3rd CC is going to be denied. 7 workers did go down. I believe that was that too. Oh, Hellions. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, guys. A little bit of a hiccup, but we're back. Rebound just a little bit, and as we're going to see these Hellions find their way into the natural, this is what got that probe damage against Neeb as the Warpin comes in to deal with it. Yes, very much apologies as there we go, the Nye on the 3rd base. He's going to be slowed down. That's something that was distracting me just a little bit. Being very unprofessional, but we're back. We are ready to go. And now we have this push coming out here for Neeb, or for Clem. Neeb looking to intercept it in the middle of the map. Cyclone immediately locks on. Does just manage to get rid of a Zealot, and other than that, Clem not really going to look to push this position. Doesn't seem as though he wants to really risk the potential of Neeb collapsing and him losing absolutely everything. Does clean up a Zealot run by there that was trying to, once again, slow down that 3rd base, potentially head into the natural. This +1 ground weapons has started for Neeb. Interesting. Usually with a very high charge lot count like you see Neeb having, and the Templar Archives, you will actually see most players go into the +2 armor before they end up adding on those attack upgrades, which is just a little bit of a, I guess, a stylistic choice here for Neeb. Doesn't want to immediately go into that +2 armor. I mean, and the reason is because your Zealots are not going to be the main damage of this army. Pretty much you want them to survive, because they get on top of the Terran army, they deal their damage over time, and really, the longer the Zealots survive, the better they do, because their base damage is very high. And as well, when you're adding on High Templars, they're going to be casting Storms, so you're not really going to be having that, I mean, really, and none of your damage is going to be reliant on these ground attack upgrades until your Colossus come out, which they will be coming out very, very shortly. We have a 2nd robotics facility on the way. The robotics bay as well is getting doubled up. I believe that's just a mistake there from Neeb, getting 2 of the same building. And it's not like you're going to be going for gravitic drive and warp prism speed. Your observers and your warp prisms do not need to move extra fast at the same time. But it's a 4th base going down for Neeb. Gonna be adding on that +1, getting into double Colossus production at the same time as this push is coming out. Revelations pop down to the Terran army at the same time as Scan gonna catch the massive ball of zealots. Why is there 33 zealots, Neeb? Why? In what world does this many zealots make sense? Are you trying to retake Ire? Is this the campaign? It seems so, as these Phoenix are actually causing a lot of chaos in the Terran main base. Have managed to knock down 13 workers by themselves. And overall, just having a grand old time, being very, very happy with how much value you've gotten out of these units, considering the fact that really the Phoenix don't have much value, especially in a build like this, after the, I mean, I would say even the 7-8 minute mark. Of course, you can use them to pick up tanks if someone's going for a tank push, to get really those key units, such as Widow Mines. But that is really the value of your Phoenixes. That's actually nice. Stasis Sword does manage to trap a few of these units as the Colossus are now out. Extend Thermal Lance is not done yet. Some great force fields, though, do manage to capture a lot of the units. That means that we are just going to see Clem retreat, as that's a massive counterattack. So many Zealots getting warped in at this pylon in the bottom corner of the map. 4 workers do end up going down, trying to collapse on a lot of these units that are being produced, and actually will manage to retreat with a whole lot of the Zealots, as now another push going to be threatened by Neeb. Not going to push in just yet, again sitting at 29 Zealots. And the fact that you're going up to 4 Colossus out of this, it's a very, very strong army, and it's interesting because you haven't seen Storm added in. Of course, you know, the High Templar are just a lot more susceptible to something like that EMP. The Colossus a lot more consistent in that regard, where it's less about if you get the spell off and more about positioning and how you use them. As Disruptor's on the way, you're going to be seeing that second form of splash damage added on in. As finally, we will see +2 armor and +2 ground weapons started up. So, Neeb getting those upgrades. 2 ghosts are sniped, and right now you're sitting at a 30 supply lead as the Protoss. The Terran army itself is just not very technical. It's 2 Vikings. I mean, you have 7 ghosts, and that's really where a lot of the power of this army comes from. But that's not a lot, as here we go. Neeb's looking for a push, and there's just so many Marines. These Colossus, there's 4 of them. They're not going to die that quickly against only 2 Vikings, and those Vikings are already almost dead. But Clem, seems like he's found an angle, but just look how much damage these Colossus do. It's 120 supply versus 120 supply, but you cannot push down the tall giraffes, laser giraffes that Protoss have. As I mean, Neeb's just going to look to continue to push this, and he can when it's just Marines and Marauders. These Colossus do so much damage to the Disruptors as well, can help to zone out the army, can knock down a few of the Widow Mines. As behind this, really not much going on. A single Widow Mine has managed to find 2 kills against reinforcements, but it's +3 already started up. Only +2/+2 upgrades for Clem, and they're not even done yet. So you're going to have a 1-1 upgrade advantage here for Neeb as he's continuing to push this location. Another Disruptor shot goes out. More Widow Mines are just being clear, as this Disruptor should get caught. There's Concussive Shell available, and it feels like Neeb has enough to fight this army. Does not want to risk it just yet, though. And Clem, I mean, is only on 3 bases. This 4th has been delayed for so long, and at the same time, you have Neeb at 75 workers, mining off 4 bases, taking a 5th. +3/+3 on the way. Blink Stalkers are going to be added on in, and you finally finish the CC, and now suddenly it's under attack. And this command center, I think, actually should fall here to the Blink Stalkers. Disruptor shot goes out, only gets a singular Widow Mine. Another Disruptor shot here is not canceled, actually finds a massive connection. That doesn't usually happen, but here we go. Finally, the push is going to come through in full power. These Disruptor shots are absolutely just disgusting, but it doesn't matter. Clem had the concave, had the double angle, is going to be able to clean up all of these units. The Disruptors go down, the Colossus falls, and Clem clears up the army. It's not going to be enough for him to win the game, though. There's still so much for, Neeb to work with. Has so much income. Right now, I believe Yeah, oh my god. I'm almost buying double that of his opponent. Of course, mules will be able to equal that out for Clem. It's just a dire situation. Once this 3-3 finishes up, and you once again have an upgrade disadvantage for the player who's going bio, it just makes your life that much harder. GT Shrine on the way. You're going to start to see Dark Templars make their way into the bases. There are missile turrets at the first natural and the third. It's a nice snipe there. Disruptor Shot's going to be able to keep this bio army away. Actually, a nice one there. Snipes a Ghost and a Marauder. And I don't think Clem can really fight this. The EMPs are good. The Stalkers are very, very weak. And Neeb is completely swapped over. It was 30 Zealots, now 23 Stalkers. 5 workers do end up going down to this Zealot run by. +3 ground weapons finishing out. More Zealots being added in. And the splash damage is actually not really there for Neeb. He's working with an army very reminiscent of a more Zest-like playstyle. It's juicy with a mine shot, gets 7 probes. But this is a playstyle that Zest would do against Clem, where it's just Zealots and Stalkers, massive amounts of gateway units and disruptors. And it works. We've seen it work before, but it's very, very scrappy. As now 5 disruptors able to keep this bio army at bay as the base is sniped, and the third command center does end up falling. I believe that was the medevac that got sniped. Neeb doing a very good job kiting these disruptor shots out to make sure that his army is not dived on. Ooh, some great splits there from Clem, though. One misstep, though, and this army will just get blown up. Neeb has so much ability to just pounce and get the advantages. There we go. EMP is going down. We managed to soften up the left side. Again, more EMPs. Archons have been added on, and the Blink Stalkers are going to try and find the angle now. And I think Neeb, he thinks that he has the opening here, but these, they're landed Vikings, and they do so much damage versus the Stalkers. As Clem dodging another disruptor shot, still more going to be juggled out. Eventually, does just pick up and get out, as he was going to start to lose that trade. Third base has been reestablished from the main. +3 is going to be finishing up here for Clem, but still has, a 2 upgrade disadvantage. It's going to just be 1, but then the shield upgrades will be coming through for Neeb not too late after. There's more Stalkers being warped in, and well, Clem's moving out, so that's going to be a very, very dead command center. There's great disruptor shots here. SCVs are going to get low. Those mine drags. Not sure if it was even intentional, but 14 SCVs go down, and Clem has decided that he needs to just try and force the base race as ships passing the night here. This is actually great for Neeb. He's going to be able to collapse on the back end of this army and make sure that there's no area for them to escape, and as he does so, this is just looks like it's going to be the end. The medevacs will be sniped. The Blink 4 is going to come through. GG. Neeb going to start his road to that comeback. We'll see what the plan is for Neeb build-wise. Of course, did a very standard opening in that last game. It was about as cookie-cutter as you can get, where you open up with your Stargate. I think the Adept attack was the only thing that was a little bit creative, where you might see a player like Trap just apply light pressure with Adepts and some harassment. Instead of committing in there to try and find some worker kills and kill the tank. But it did slow down Clem quite a bit. It meant that there was no early push that came out from the Terran player, and after that, the game was just slowed to a state that allowed Neeb to macro up as comfortably as he wanted. But from that position, charge lots, +1 armor, charge. Eventually got into Colossus and Disruptors, and then phased out the Colossus for charge lot, Blink Stalker, Disruptor, which ended up being the key with the 3-3 to knock down Clem's army. This position for the bunker is kind of disgusting, as this SCV is just not allowing itself to be attacked at all. So it's going to go up. Probe not able to stop it. Immediately, shield battery goes down. The Reaper will probably start to poke that down. Not really a building that you want to go up, as the Stalker is the first unit. And the Singular Stalker can actually get rid of this bunker with the shield battery in support, but it just takes a little while. It's a bit annoying. As we see here, actually, the Pylon getting focused down at first. that Neeb will have to manually retarget his shield battery onto that. And we're just going to be having this juggle here with these units. Nothing too crazy should happen unless Neeb doesn't shield the pylon. There we go, finally going to get to it. A second Stalker is here. A Marine has just been walked across the map as well, so a bit more DPS going to be added to this army as the repairs coming through, and the SCV actually being focus fired. But the micro here so far from Clem has been absolutely brilliant. Finally, a shield battery overcharge is popped. That means that we really shouldn't see any more damage happening. Probe's going to be used to help fight this. Units will be popped out, and well, I actually don't see them really getting too much more value at all, as everything is cleaned up quite nicely there by Neeb. Has an Oracle on the way from his Stargate. And back at home, Clem does already have his natural base established. Stargate, or Starport on the way immediately into double Widow Mine. I believe we'll actually be able to get a 4 Widow Mine drop, it looks like. With the reactor swap over, went for the 2 Hellions. With the 21-second build time, I think, should be able to get 4 Widow Mines out for this drop. Just means it's going to be a little bit more deadly than you usually expect. The number is 2 to 3. That's what most Protosses are used to, but having 4 in there can just increase the volatility a little bit as, oh my, Neeb actually just moving across the map here with 3 Stalkers, and there is really nothing at home right now for Clem to defend with, so that natural has to be evacuated, and that's a pretty big loss already for the Terran player. Some nice shots. 4 probes do end up going down. Oracle will be used just to clean that up as double Widow Mine drop instead heading out. The immediate swap over did happen so that a Cyclone could be built. And it's just a response there from Clem, realizing that he does need to regain control of his natural. Even getting a few probe kills does not really even out the amount of economic damage that he's taking from not mining from his natural bases. Here we go, the workers looking for a surround. 1 Stalker at the very least is going to go down to the Cyclone. As the chase is going to continue, Neeb fadeaway shot onto that Marine, but it actually might have to give away the life of a second Stalker for that kill. Not exactly the trade that you wanted to take, as these 2 Widow Mines being burrowed in case the 3rd base was placed over in that location. Unfortunately for Clem, Neeb did take the alternate 3rd base. But we have the usual unit composition coming on through. Twilight Council Forge, additional gateways. It is, again, standard. Neeb very comfortable with this opening, with this transition. He's done slightly different things each game depending on what the situation entails. But other than that, the transition has been largely the same. We have not seen really a heavy focus on tech units like Colossus, as some players might go into. Getting those early Colossus, getting Storm especially. Trap is definitely one of the players who focuses on getting those multiple variations on splash damage with Colossus, sometimes Disruptors, and Storm. Just really getting everything that you can to make the Terran's life as hard as possible when you eventually try and make that death push with all of your tech, with 3 Colossus, 4 High Templar, and maybe a Disruptor or 2 added on in there. The Oracle is just going to tag up the production, going to keep an eye on what is actually being produced, and you will see the tanks. The Revelation actually might not last long enough to see the tank, but we'll at least see these Marines pop out. And did manage to scout out the majority of the army here. And Stasis Ward going to be placed down just to try and slow down this army when it does push out. This actually might be really massive. That's a big Stasis Ward. And that just slows down Clem so much. Clem was about to look for a 645 push. He had Stim, he had Combat Shields, he had Marines. And losing that many units to the Stasis Trap that are now just not going to be useful. This just makes Clem's life absolute hell, as this tank is getting focused down. Repairs are attempting to come through, but a tank is picked off. 5 SCVs have gone down. And now suddenly this push is a whole lot more important for Clem, as all the force fields. And you're just not getting this push. It's just not going to happen. I know you wanted this at 6:45. You wanted to be across the map at 7 minutes and attacking your opponent with Stim and Combat Shields. But Neeb has just not allowed you to. Now he has, 2 additional rounds of Warpins. The Phoenix can come back across the map. And this is just so hard here for Clem as the Phoenix dive on in. The force fields go down. And it's absolutely beautiful, the engagement here from Neeb. Picks up the tank. The boys are being brought over, but the army is already getting collapsed on. And everything is absolutely getting destroyed. Neeb He's tying us up 2-2. All right, ladies and gentlemen, final game. Game 5. A lot of people probably weren't expecting this to come here after seeing how strong the opening was for the young Frenchman here in the bottom left-hand corner from Team Liquid. It is Clem. In the bottom right, he's got out the broom. He's looking to start sweeping away the dust, cleaning up the house, tidying up all the little corners and edges, the nooks and crannies. Looking for the reverse sweep. It is Neeb. Again, apologies for the lackluster casting, I would say. Again, still a little bit sick, which does make it a bit unfortunate. I'm trying to be a little bit more analytical, but that's not my forte. Is most certainly the shoutcasting. As we do have the hidden barracks here from Clem, so it's just once again going to be trying to throw off your opponent just a little bit. You're saying, hey, think about what's going on. Do you know what I'm doing? No. And that's where the mystery comes in. That's where the intrigue is, and usually is what will the Protoss a little bit skeptical is. You could scout it out if you actually went all the way to the edge here of the caution sign, but Neeb does not go that far, does not venture that far into the unknown. Does just scout out all the corners of the base. And now I believe I imagine should scout out the natural as well for any hidden buildings. Doesn't see any, and as soon as you see the factory at home, that does clue you in that, oh, it's just a proxy barracks. I mean, it's not even a proxy barracks, it's a hidden barracks, and there's just going to be a Reaper headed across the map. It's nothing crazy. You will need the Reaper out to help try and delay it just a little bit, but honestly, the actual, I think, Zealot here is not going to be used. Interestingly enough, Clem doesn't go across the map immediately, and even if he did, would run into a wall, and so you would have that Stalker out relatively soon. You might lose a Stalker or two if you didn't build the Zealot, which would be, of course, very, very annoying at this point in the game. I mean, losing workers, of course, it's kind of an exponential kind of thing, where early in the game, if you lose a worker, that's just so many more minerals that you haven't gained as the game goes on, and that you won't be able to gain as the game goes on, as Reaper takes a bit of damage. It's going to just have to back on up. But of course, when you're in the late game, when you have 70 workers, you have so many that losing one or two doesn't really hurt you altogether that much. The starport is on the way, and we're going to be looking for Widowmine drops here from Clem once again. It is just your, I mean, again, both these players, very, very comfortable with the openings that they're doing. And of course, when you're considering the fact that, you know, tournaments are starting up soon, this was played a decent bit before the King of Battles qualifiers would start. But you have other events that, you know, qualifiers are happening for, or are going to be happening for, so you don't want to show off crazy builds or timings and build orders. As the Stalker trying to kite this back, the Zealot is actually quite low here for Neeb, but managed to snipe off the Reaper and then should be able to continue cutting this away. Natural base is going to land on location for Clem. Is immediately just going to be going into kind of your usual timing. Once again, looking for that 645 stim combat shields +1. I believe Clem has usually been adding on a tank though for defense, and this is, or Cyclone actually this time. And this is a variation that I really do enjoy when we see players do it. As, ooh, what if my drop goes in? Only 2 probes end up falling. As it's straight into the Phoenix production. No Oracle this game from Neeb. But as I was saying, this is a variation of the build that I really enjoy. Where, oh, yeah, hold that thought, Neeb. Just committing on in here with the Adept and the Zealot and the Stalker. The mishmash of gateway units does not work out that well, though, as the micro from Clem is good. And overall, I mean, that was a pretty terrible trade, actually, for the Protoss. You lose 3 Adepts, a Stalker, a Zealot, and you get, I mean, a Worker and a few Marines. Not what Neeb was looking for. And of course, that's kind of how it goes when you're running into this opening from the Terran. They're going to be getting out a lot of Marines early with the reactor, especially when you use this tech lab initially, especially to build something like a Cyclone. It does mean that, yes, your combat shields will be delayed, and that's why it was delayed in the last game for Clem, of course. That, I think, kind of ended up biting him when he wanted to find the exact push-out time, where you're looking, oh, 6:45, I want to get out on the map, I want to try and move across and find this timing. When you have that delay on your combat shields, it does hurt you quite a bit. And of course, there was the other delays, the stasis ward, the force fields as well, just delaying the push for so long. But it gives you extra defense. You do allow yourself to get out a Cyclone or a tank, depending on what you want, before you head into your Widow Mines and your Medevacs. And it does mean that your combat shields finishes up more so around 7 minutes and 15 seconds. So it's a half a minute delay on that upgrade for the additional HP for your Marines. Again, it's not a massive difference, but it does end up hurting just a little bit if you're looking to just hit that timing on the nose and do damage with it, which it felt like was Clem's option in that last game. Stimmy combat shields on the way, though. +1 is also just a little bit later than I believe it even was in the last game. Actually, a big delay on that for Clem. And shield batteries are going down. An Immortal is out. Actually, 2 Immortals even have been produced to help defend this. And Colossus is now on the way, but in reality, I think Neeb's army should be strong enough to defeat this. There was a nice little lift-off trick there with the Phoenix. Try and help break the lock on as... Here we go, fight's gonna come through, force fields go down, section off a bit of the army. Manages to drop a few Marines as a sentry is sniped. It does not feel like Clem's really gonna be able to push this any further. As the Colossus now comes out, and I mean, just makes it so much harder for Clem to push this position. Lift off onto the Widow Mine. Gonna try and keep that one out of the ground, and Neeb actually trying to force this attack away. Will be able to. The lift off comes through, and Clem is gonna reposition. He's not gonna retreat just yet. He does have a 3rd CC going down, so you need to try and keep some of this pressure up onto the Protoss in order to make sure that that base is not attacked anytime soon. But immediately we have Viking production from Clem, and again, this is very, very important. As we saw in that 17-minute game on Hardwire, when you don't have a lot of Vikings, it makes it so much harder. Ooh, that Colossus is quite low. Widow Mine shot got so much value. But as we saw in the Hardwire game, when you don't have enough Vikings, those Colossus could just absolutely wreak havoc. Of course, that was a game that Clem managed to fight back into. I think Clem took some bad engagements. Neeb took some bad engagements, took some bad fights. Tried to force the issue a little bit too much before he had the army that he needed. And so it meant that Clem was able to kind of fight and scrap his way into that game, although he did end up losing it in the end. And interestingly enough, we haven't seen... Okay, there is a second Colossus. I was going to say, I feel like we haven't seen another Colossus built, but it's just hanging out in the main base, having a good old time, and looking at the probe, saying hi. And they're continuing to see these 6 Phoenix just shark around and look if there's any drops coming through, try and defend and make sure that really there's no threats immediately on the map from Clem. Just starting up on the armory, Ghost Academy and +1 armor, so you're gonna have that 1-1 for Clem actually finished up very, very quickly. And with that upgrade finishing, you're gonna be looking at a 1 upgrade advantage for Clem with Ghosts, with Vikings, and with this 3rd base finish to 4th on the way. It's actually gonna be a very, very strong timing here that Clem can start to look for. Has enough Vikings to push away the Phoenix and actually gonna be able to catch them. Immediately snipes the low health one. And Phoenix are pretty flimsy. The second one falls to the Marines. Blinking Disruptors on the way. Neeb's looking to run back the composition that he ran in game number 3. The ground pound. He just straight up fighting power. The issue is in this game, he's not as far ahead as he was in the last one. He's not in as good of a position as he was. He doesn't have an upgrade lead. Right now, you're just working with the +1 ground attacks, which just finished up. You didn't start that +1 ground armor. And so, right now, Clem, his army just fights better. He has more of it, and it fights better. Hasn't brought over the rest of these Vikings, but if he does, then suddenly the Colossus are really almost a non-factor if you can't micro them well. I mean, 8 Vikings, that's 2 volleys, and you kill each Colossus. That does not take very long. As Clem's just going to look for an opening here. Right now, 1-1 Ghosts Vikings. It is such a strong army. I mean, Neeb's is strong as well, though. I mean, the splash damage for Neeb is actually insane right now. 3 Disruptors, 3 Colossus. If you take a bad fight here as Clem, if you try and force an angle that is not perfect, if you don't split your units well enough, you can absolutely just get decimated by Disruptor shots as these Phoenix continuing to be annoying, continuing to try and pick off units. The gold base has been taken by Clem, who is now a base up, and look at this. He's looking to attack from 2 angles. He's going to deny the 4th base and also try and fight here at the 3rd, as look how fast those Colossus health bars go down. And GG. What? Huh?